Stop right there, because what just happened to the Indiana Fever over their last two games is one of the most alarming trends of the entire 2026 WNBA season. Caitlin Clark, one of the best pure passers anywhere in basketball right now, finished the first half against the New York Liberty with 2 assists. 2. She averages over 8 per game this season. And at halftime against the Liberty, 2. But that number is not the most alarming part. Watch the footage from those Liberty possessions and you will see the same image repeating over and over. Clark is not at the top of the key initiating. She is not bringing the ball up and reading the defense. She is parked in the corner, arms loose, standing off ball, watching somebody else try to create something out of nothing. While the single most dangerous playmaker on this roster waits quietly for a catch-and-shoot look that may or may not ever come. And this is the second straight game it has happened. 2 straight games, 2 straight losses. Indiana Fever, the team built entirely around Caitlin Clark, has spent 2 consecutive games taking the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. And the scoreboard shows exactly what that decision costs. Tonight, the full picture, because the numbers and the footage together tell a story that is very hard to explain away. Let's start with the comparison that makes everything else impossible to dismiss. August 11th, Indiana Fever versus New York Liberty. Same opponent, same season. Clark finished with 22 points and 10 assists, her 10th double-double of the season. Indiana blew New York out 106-92 on their own home floor. That result was not a coincidence. Clark controlled the tempo of the entire game, found shooters in rhythm possession after possession, put sustained pressure on the defense because the ball was in her hands and the offense ran through her instincts. Now compare that game directly to the last two. 2 nights earlier in Dallas, against the Wings, Clark shot 4 for 15 from the field. She still racked up assists when the ball found her, but her role in the offense had already started shrinking. Kelsey Mitchell had to completely take over, dropping 37 points to keep Indiana competitive. Indiana still lost 91-85. Then came the Liberty game. 2 assists at halftime. Clark parked in the corner. Indiana lost again. Same team, same coach, 2 weeks apart. 106-92 when Clark runs the offense. 2 straight losses when she doesn't. That contrast does not need a complicated explanation. The numbers put it right there on the scoreboard. Now let's talk about what was actually happening on the floor, because the footage is as telling as any stat. When Indiana ran its half-court sets in the Liberty game, Clark was not initiating. She was not at the top of the key reading the defense. She was standing off-ball in the corner, for long stretches, waiting. That is not a system adjustment. That is a talented player being benched inside her own offense while she is still technically on the floor in uniform. And there was a moment that crystallized exactly what Fever fans have been watching. White pulled Clark off the floor immediately after a miss. Not a timeout, not a dead ball, not a natural rotation in a stoppage. A miss, followed by a hook, followed by Clark walking to the sideline while the Liberty kept right on playing. Fever fans watching live noticed it instantly, because this has stopped being a one-off coaching decision. This is now a pattern across 2 consecutive games, against 2 different opponents, in 2 different cities. Same result. The ball is not in Clark's hands, and Indiana is losing. Here is the specific thing that makes 2 assists at halftime so alarming for anyone who has watched Clark all season. She is not a player who struggles to find teammates. She is a player defenses build entire scouting reports around, specifically because of what she does with the ball. She draws double teams the moment she crosses half court. She forces help defenders to leave shooters open on the perimeter. She creates spacing that makes every teammate's job dramatically easier just by having the ball in her hands. When you take the ball away from her, you are not simplifying the offense. You are removing the team's single biggest structural advantage over every opponent on this schedule. A tweet circulating right now says it exactly right. Quote, "The Indiana Fever have somehow managed to turn Caitlin Clark into a role player. Absolutely insane." And the assist number is the proof. 2 in an entire half. From a player averaging 8 per game. That does not happen because Clark forgot how to pass. That happens because the ball is not in her hands. And the ball is not in her hands because of how this offense is currently being run. Now let's be fair, because fairness matters here. Stephanie White is not a random hire. She is a championship-level coach with a legitimate resume. And Clark has a documented back issue that has required real workload management at multiple points this season. A coach thinking carefully about minutes for an injured superstar. That is not incompetence. That is responsibility. But here is the distinction that matters. 2 assists at halftime is not a workload management decision. Standing in the corner for entire possessions is not a back injury precaution. Those are fundamentally different decisions. White spoke to reporters after the Liberty loss about rotations and ball movement and spacing the offense properly. All reasonable things to say in a press conference. But reasonable words at a podium do not change what Fever fans watched on their screens in real time. You can talk about equal touches and offensive balance all you want. It still does not explain 2 assists at halftime from the best pure passer on this roster. And it definitely does not explain her standing quietly in the corner while somebody else tries to manufacture offense from scratch. Respected voices around the league, including Swin Cash on national television, have weighed in on exactly how much the ball should be in Clark's hands. That is a legitimate philosophical debate. But the results of this specific approach over these 2 specific games are not a matter of opinion. They are sitting on the scoreboard. 2 losses. 2 games without Clark running the offense. 1 result. Here is the full picture, and every piece of it points the same direction. August 11th, Clark runs the offense. 22 points, 10 assists, won by 14. Dallas, ball moves away from Clark. Mitchell needs 37 to keep it close, lost by 6. Liberty, Clark parked in corner, 2 assists at halftime, lost. The pattern is 3 games long now, and the Fever are in a genuine playoff race. Every game matters. Clark is not the problem. She has not stopped being the most dangerous offensive weapon on this roster. She has not stopped being the player every opposing coaching staff spends scouting reports trying to stop. What has changed is how much this coaching staff is willing to let her be that player in the moments that matter most. Every player misses shots. The real measure of trust in a superstar is whether the ball comes back to her on the very next possession. Right now in Indianapolis, that trust is running thin. At the exact moment this team can least afford it, put the ball in her hands. It really should not be this complicated. 2 assists at halftime. Standing in the corner. 2 straight losses. Same coach, same team. 2 weeks ago, 22 points, 10 assists, won by 14. The scoreboard has answered the question. Subscribe for daily WNBA and Fever coverage. Drop a comment. Is this an injury management decision that makes sense? Or has the offensive philosophy around Clark genuinely changed in a way that is costing this team wins? Because the numbers from August 11th versus the last 2 games make the answer pretty clear.